The sky above Earth burned red. Massive ships hung in the atmosphere like black mountains, their weapons still glowing from the bombardment. Captain Han Jisoo watched from his command chair as his flagship, the Indomitable, broke apart around him. Metal screamed. Fires spread through the corridors. His crew was already gone, evacuated in the escape pods he had ordered away 10 minutes ago. Captain, structural integrity at 5%, the computer warned in its calm voice. It was the only voice left on the bridge besides his own breathing. Han Jisoo looked at the view screen. Below him, Earth's cities were burning. New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, all of them sending pillars of smoke into the sky. The Vraxian Empire had arrived 3 days ago with a simple message: surrender or die. Humanity had chosen to fight. Now, humanity was losing. Record final transmission, he said quietly. The red light on his console blinked on. Han Jisoo sat up straight, despite the pain in his ribs from the last explosion. Despite knowing that no one might ever hear these words, this is Captain Han Jisoo of the Terran Defense Fleet. To anyone listening across the stars, remember us. Remember that we stood against an empire that thought itself invincible. Remember that we refused to kneel. Tell them we died defiant. Tell them we died free. He ended the recording. Then he pressed the button that would send the Indomitable's reactor into overload. The ship would explode in 30 seconds. With luck, it would take a few Vraxian fighters with it. Han Jisoo closed his eyes. He thought about his daughter, safe in the shelters below. He thought about the ocean near his home in Busan. He thought about the world went white. Aboard the Vraxian command ship, Empress Velthara watched the human flagship explode. She felt nothing. This was the 48th species her empire had conquered. The humans had lasted 3 days. Most species surrendered after the first demonstration of power. These humans were stubborn. She would give them that much. Status report, she commanded. General Kronak stepped forward, his scaled face showing satisfaction. The human defense fleet is destroyed. 90% casualties. Their orbital stations are gone. Their satellite network is offline. Ground resistance is minimal. Casualties on our side? 12 fighters, 2 corvettes damaged. Nothing significant. Empress. Velthara nodded. It was always the same pattern. Show overwhelming force. Destroy their military. Break their spirit. Then, move in and take control of their resources. Earth had water, metals, and a population that could be put to work. In 10 years, no one would remember that humans had once been free. Begin the occupation, she ordered. Yes, Empress, General Kronak bowed. The humans will learn their place, like all the others, far from Earth, beyond the orbit of Neptune. Lieutenant Kwon Dae-hyun sat at his station on Outpost 7. The outpost was small, hidden, and supposedly top secret. Its only job was to watch for threats from deep space. But the threat had come from a different direction. And now, Dae-hyun watched helplessly as his home burned. Sir, I'm picking up something strange, he said to Commander Park, who ran the outpost. Strange how? Park moved to his station. Energy signatures, coming from the Kuiper Belt. Multiple sources. They just appeared on sensors a few minutes ago. Park frowned. Could be solar interference. The Vraxians have been using a lot of weapons. It might be radiation echoes. Maybe, Dae-hyun said, but he didn't sound convinced. He had been monitoring these sensors for 2 years. He knew what solar interference looked like. This was different. This was organized. This was. His console beeped with an incoming message. Encrypted. Priority Alpha. Dae-hyun's hands shook as he decoded it. Only 3 people in the entire solar system had Priority Alpha clearance. 2 of them were dead. Or supposed to be dead. The message was short. Protocol Exodus active. Maintain radio silence. Await further orders. Yoon. Radio. Radio. Commander, Daehyun said slowly. I think you need to see this. On the moon, deep beneath the Tycho crater, Dr. Yoon Hana stood in a control room that officially didn't exist. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at their stations. Screens showed tactical data, fleet positions, resource calculations. This room had been built 30 years ago, hidden from every satellite, every survey, every inspection. Only a handful of people knew it existed. Broadcast complete, one technician reported. All units confirm receipt of Protocol Exodus. Good. Yoon Hana allowed herself a small smile. Everything was going according to plan. The terrible, necessary plan that she had helped design 2 decades ago, when humanity first detected signals from hostile alien civilizations. They had all known this day would come. First contact with an aggressive species, an enemy with superior technology, and no mercy. So humanity had prepared. Not openly, where the enemy could see, but secretly, in the dark places between the planets, in the cold depths where no one thought to look. Status of the Ghost Fleet? She asked. All ships report ready. Commander Shin Yuna confirms 300 vessels at full combat capability. Stealth systems operating normally. 300 ships. Humanity's real fleet. Built in secret, using asteroid resources and technology that Earth had officially claimed to be too expensive to develop. While Earth's public fleet had fielded outdated vessels with visible weaknesses, the Ghost Fleet had been equipped with weapons that would make the Vraxians regret ever coming to this system. And the ground situation? Lee Hyunwoo reports the resistance is ready. Civilian casualties were minimal. The evacuation protocols worked. 92% of the population is safe in the deep shelters. Yoon Hana nodded. The burning cities the Vraxians had bombed were mostly empty. Decoys with enough heat signatures and electronic activity to look populated. The real cities were underground, carved from bedrock over decades, stocked with supplies for years of siege. What about Admiral Park Minho? Alive and commanding from asteroid base Sigma, he's already coordinating with the fleet commanders. So he had made it. Good. The Admiral's death in the opening battle had been staged. His flagship destroyed by pre-planted charges to make it look like a Vraxian kill. Half the casualties humanity had suffered were fake. The other half hurt. But they had known the price of freedom. Time until Phase 2? Yoon Hana asked. 3 weeks. The Vraxians need to establish their occupation and let their guard down. 3 weeks of watching her people suffer under alien boots. 3 weeks of playing dead. It was almost unbearable, but necessary. The Vraxians had to believe they had won completely, had to commit their forces to occupying Earth, had to stop watching their backs. Then humanity would show its teeth. Across the galaxy, billions watched the broadcasts from Earth. The news channels showed the smoking ruins, showed the Vraxian troops marching through empty streets, showed the message from Empress Velthara, declaring humanity a subject species. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Talvek of the Kelran Federation watched with a troubled expression. Something felt wrong about this conquest. It had been too easy, too clean. The humans had fought with outdated weapons and predictable tactics, almost as if they wanted to lose. Perhaps they simply weren't ready, his aide suggested. Perhaps, Talvek said. But he didn't believe it. He had studied humanity during the years before the war, had read their history, their literature, their military doctrine. Humans were tricky. Humans were survivors. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other, learning every dirty trick of warfare. He opened a secure channel to his research team. Pull all the data on human industrial output for the last 50 years. Energy consumption, mineral extraction, population movements. I want to see where the numbers don't add up. If he was wrong, it didn't matter. But if he was right, the galaxy was about to witness something unprecedented, and Ambassador Talvek wanted to be ready for it. In orbit above Earth, The Vraxian soldiers celebrated their easy victory. They had no idea what was coming. 3 weeks had passed since the Vraxian Empire declared victory over Earth. In the occupied cities, alien soldiers patrolled the streets. They expected resistance, but found only broken people. Humans who shuffled past with their heads down, who obeyed every order, who seemed to have given up completely. General Kronak was pleased. He stood on the observation deck of the orbital fortress, looking down at the blue planet. Another world brought to heel, he said to his officers. The humans learned quickly. Fear is the best teacher. What he didn't know was that the humans shuffling through the streets were actors. The real population was miles underground, in vast shelters that had taken decades to build. And in those shelters, people weren't broken. They were angry. They were ready. They were waiting. Lee Hyun-woo moved through the tunnels of underground Seoul. The city beneath the city stretched for miles, powered by geothermal generators that the Vraxians couldn't detect. Shops, schools, hospitals, homes, all of it hidden beneath hundreds of feet of rock. The supply chains are holding, his second-in-command reported. Food production is at 90% capacity. We can sustain the population for 5 years if needed. We won't need 5 years, Lee Hyun-woo said. He checked his tactical display. Across the planet, similar underground cities housed billions of people. The Vraxians thought they controlled Earth. They controlled nothing but empty buildings and automated systems designed to fool them. When do we strike? Soon. First, the fleet needs to move into position. Far beyond Neptune, in the cold darkness of the Kuiper Belt, Commander Shin Yuna stood on the bridge of the warship Ghost Wind. Around her vessel, 299 other ships waited in the dark. This was the Ghost Fleet, humanity's secret weapon, built over 50 years using resources from asteroids and ice dwarf planets. Status check, she ordered. Her tactical officer responded immediately. All ships, report ready, Commander. Stealth systems, at maximum. Weapons charged. Crews, at battle stations. Shin Yuna looked at the holographic display showing the solar system. The Vraxian fleet had split up, confident in their victory. Half their ships had already left to terrorize other systems. The rest were spread thin around Earth, focused on the occupation. They've made their first mistake, she said quietly. They think the battle is over. Commander, receiving priority transmission from Admiral Park Minho. The Admiral's face appeared on her screen. He looked older than she remembered, but his eyes were sharp. Commander Shin, are your people ready? Ready and eager, sir. Good. In 72 hours we move. The Vraxians are about to learn why you don't celebrate victory before your enemy is actually dead. The transmission ended. Shin Yuna smiled. She had waited 3 weeks to hear those words. Around her, the Ghost Fleet began its slow, silent approach toward the inner solar system. Deep inside an asteroid between Mars and Jupiter, engineer Bei Ji-won made final adjustments to her masterpiece. The quantum displacement torpedo looked simple on the outside, just a standard missile shape, but inside was technology that would revolutionize warfare. Run the test sequence again, she ordered her team. The simulation played out on the screens. The torpedo launched, accelerated, then vanished. Not cloaked, actually vanished, shifting into quantum space. It reappeared inside the target ship, beyond its shields, and detonated. The enemy ship never had a chance to react. Perfect, Bei Ji-won said. How many have we manufactured? 5,000 torpedoes, ready for deployment. 5,000 ship killers that could ignore every defense the Vraxians had. It had taken 30 years to develop the technology, working from fragments of ancient alien machinery found in the Kuiper Belt. Humanity had reverse-engineered weapons from a civilization that died 1,000,000 years ago. Now, those weapons would speak again. Load them on the fleet transports. Commander Shin will want these ready when the attack begins. On Jupiter's moon Io. What looked like a simple mining colony was actually a massive military factory. Thousands of workers, all volunteers, built weapons and ships inside the moon's volcanic tunnels. The heat from the volcanoes powered the forges and masked the energy signatures from Vraxian sensors. Shift Supervisor Kim Tae-young watched as another attack craft rolled off the assembly line. "That's number 50 this week. We're ahead of schedule." "Good, because we'll need every ship," his colleague said. "Word from command is that the operation starts soon. About time. I'm tired of pretending to be beaten." That sentiment echoed through every hidden facility in the solar system. On Saturn's moon Titan, chemical weapons were being manufactured, compounds specifically designed to disrupt Vraxian biology. On Uranus's orbital stations, cyber warfare specialists prepared viruses to infect enemy systems. On Neptune's moons, railgun batteries waited to spring their trap. Humanity had turned the entire outer solar system into a fortress, and the Vraxians had no idea. Dr. Yunhana reviewed the timeline in her lunar command center. Everything was proceeding perfectly. The Vraxians had fallen for every deception. They thought humanity's technology was primitive. They thought the defense fleet they destroyed was humanity's only military force. They thought humans were broken and submissive. "Dr. Yoon, we have a situation," one of her technicians called out. "What kind of situation?" "Ambassador Talvek from the Kelran Federation has been investigating us. His people have been analyzing Earth's historical data. Power consumption, mining outputs, population movements." Yunhana frowned. The Kelrans were one of the more intelligent species in the Galactic Council. If anyone could figure out humanity's deception, it would be them. "What has he found?" "He knows the numbers don't match. He knows humanity has been using more resources than we showed. He's presenting his findings to the Galactic Council tomorrow." "Can we stop him?" "No. But we can use him. If we feed him the right information at the right time, he could be an ally." Yunhana considered this. An alien ally would be useful when the truth came out. The galaxy needed to understand that humanity wasn't the aggressor here. That everything they did was self-defense. Prepare a data packet. Include evidence of Vraxian war crimes, footage from their other conquests. Show him what the Empire really is. Send it anonymously. Timed to arrive after our attack begins. "Yes, Doctor." In a medical pod deep inside asteroid base Sigma, Captain Han Jisoo woke up. His last memory was the Indomitable, exploding around him. He should be dead. Instead, he was staring at a metal ceiling, his body aching but alive. "Welcome back, Captain." Admiral Park Minho stood beside the pod, smiling. "You've been asleep for 3 weeks. What happened?" "The ship exploded." "It did. But we beamed you out 2 seconds before detonation. Your body took a lot of damage from the transport, but the medical team patched you up. You're going to be fine." Han Jisoo tried to sit up. Pain shot through his chest. The war? Still happening. But not the way the Vraxians think. The Admiral helped him sit. "Captain, you need to see what we've built. What we've been building while the galaxy thought we were primitive and helpless." Over the next hour, Admiral Park Minho explained everything. The Ghost Fleet, the hidden colonies, the advanced weapons, the massive deception that had fooled an entire empire. Han Jisoo listened in amazement. "All this time," he finally said. "We've been preparing for 50 years? We knew hostile first contact would come eventually. We just didn't know when, or from whom. So we prepared for the worst, while hoping for the best. And my crew? The Indomitable? Your crew is safe. 80% of the casualties the Vraxians think they inflicted were faked. We couldn't save everyone, but we saved most." Han Jisoo felt tears in his eyes. His people were alive, and humanity was about to strike back. "When do we hit them, sir?" 72 hours. "Think you can fly by then?" "I'll fly if I have to crawl to the cockpit." The Admiral laughed. "That's what I wanted to hear." Because I'm giving you command of the reformed defense fleet. The Vraxians think they destroyed us. Let's show them what destroyed really looks like. On Earth, the Vraxian occupation continued. Soldiers patrolled empty cities. Ships scanned for resistance that never appeared. They reported back that humanity was compliant, defeated, ready for integration into the Empire. Empress Velthara received these reports with satisfaction. Another successful conquest. Another species added to the Empire. In a few years, humans would be serving in her armies, mining her resources, expanding her glory. She had no idea that beneath her soldiers' feet, millions of humans prepared for war. She had no idea that in the darkness beyond her sensors, an entire fleet moved into attack position. She had no idea that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their ships. It was their patience, their willingness to endure, their ability to take a hit, fall down, and get back up swinging. The galaxy was about to learn what humans really were, and the Vraxians would be the first lesson. The celebration aboard the Vraxian orbital fortress was loud and proud. Officers drank fermented Keltar, their species' traditional victory drink. Holographic displays showed images of conquered Earth, tribute flowing from other systems. The ever-expanding empire. General Kronak raised his glass in a toast. To the Empress, to the Empire, to another easy victory, his officers cheered. Below them, Earth looked peaceful. The humans were quiet, obedient, broken. Everything was perfect. In 3 hours, that perfection would shatter like glass. Specialist An Minji worked at her console in Underground Seoul. Her fingers moved across holographic keyboards, writing code that would change everything. She was humanity's best cyber warfare expert, and for 3 weeks she had been patient, watching, learning the Vraxian systems. "I'm in," she announced to Lee Hyunwoo. "I have access to their entire communication network." "How?" "Remember the salvage they took from our destroyed ships? It wasn't salvage. It was a gift. Every piece of technology we let them capture had my code hidden inside. They've been plugging our tech into their systems for weeks, thinking it was safe." Lee Hyunwoo smiled. "What can you do?" "Everything. I can shut down their targeting systems, disable their shields, scramble their communications, make them blind, deaf, and defenseless. Wait for the signal. When the Ghost Fleet arrives, we hit them with everything at once." An Minji nodded. Her screen showed the Vraxian network like a spider's web, and she held the scissors. Far above the solar system's plane, Commander Shin Yuna's Ghost Fleet emerged from quantum stealth. 300 ships appearing like stars being born. They had traveled for 3 days, silent and invisible, moving into perfect attack position. "All ships report ready, Commander," her tactical officer said. Shin Yuna studied the tactical display. The Vraxian fleet was scattered around Earth, complacent and unprepared. Their shields were down, their weapons offline. They thought they were safe. "Open a channel to all ships. It's time they heard what humanity has to say." Throughout the Ghost Fleet, speakers crackled to life. Admiral Park Min-ho's voice filled every bridge, every corridor, every fighter cockpit. "People of Earth, of Luna, of Mars, of the outer colonies, for 3 weeks we have played dead. For 3 weeks, we have let the enemy think they won. That ends now. The Vraxians came to our home and brought fire. Today, we return that fire tenfold. Today, we remind the galaxy that humanity does not kneel. All ships attack." The Ghost Fleet surged forward like a tidal wave of steel and fury. Shin Yuna's flagship led the charge, weapons blazing. The first Vraxian patrol never knew what hit them. One moment they were flying a lazy circuit around the moon. The next, quantum torpedoes phased through their shields and detonated inside their hulls. 3 ships exploded in perfect silence. "Multiple contacts!" A Vraxian sensor officer screamed aboard the orbital fortress. "Ships appearing from nowhere. Hundreds of them. General Kronak dropped his glass. It shattered on the floor. What? That's impossible. The humans have no fleet. Tell that to them, sir. The view screen showed the truth. Ship after ship appearing on sensors, all broadcasting human identification codes. Advanced vessels with weapons that shouldn't exist. The Ghost Fleet had arrived, and it was nothing like the primitive force the Vraxians had destroyed 3 weeks ago. Battle stations! Raise shields! Launch all fighters! Kronak roared, but then Minji activated her virus. Across the Vraxian fleet, systems began to fail. Targeting computers crashed. Shield generators stuttered and died. Communications dissolved into static. The virus spread like wildfire through their network, exploiting every backdoor she had planted. Shields won't respond, a Vraxian technician shouted. Weapons are offline. We're blind. Captain Choi Sora commanded the experimental warship Retribution, equipped with a singularity drive that made it the fastest ship in human history. She dove into Earth's orbital space, like a falcon hitting a flock of pigeons. Target those cruisers. Fire all forward batteries. Her ship's railguns spoke, accelerated projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed. They hit the Vraxian cruisers like the fist of an angry god. Shields that would have stopped the weapons flickered uselessly, and armor designed to resist conventional weapons simply vaporized. 3 cruisers died in the first salvo. Turn us about. Target the destroyer group. Show them what humanity builds when we're serious. The Retribution spun on its axis, drive screaming, and dove back into the battle. Choi Sora had trained her entire life for this moment. She wasn't going to waste it. On the ground, Lee Hyun-woo gave the signal. Throughout occupied Earth, the resistance struck. Hidden weapons caches opened. Silent warriors emerged from underground tunnels, and from every hidden speaker came a sound the Vraxians had never heard from humans before. Battle drums, ancient and primal, the rhythm that humanity had marched to for thousands of years. The sound of people who refused to be conquered. Vraxian soldiers in the streets looked around in confusion. The submissive humans were gone. In their place stood men and women with weapons, with determination in their eyes, with smiles that promised violence. For Earth, Lee Hyun-woo shouted, and opened fire. The sonic weapons his people carried were designed by Dr. Nam Junho, a xenobiologist who had studied Vraxian physiology for years. The frequencies they emitted were harmless to humans but devastating to Vraxian nervous systems. Alien soldiers dropped their weapons, clutching their heads, disoriented and helpless. All across Earth, the resistance swept through occupied zones like a storm. The Vraxians had never faced coordinated ground assault like this. Their training assumed they would always control the skies, always have orbital support. But the skies were full of human ships, and the orbital support was dying. Aboard the Indomitable II, Captain Han Jisoo sat in a command chair that felt like home. His new ship was twice the size of his old one, and equipped with weapons that made his old vessel look like a toy. Targets acquired, his weapons officer reported. The orbital fortress is vulnerable. Shields are down. Should we proceed? Han Jisoo thought about the moment his first ship exploded. About the 3 weeks he spent recovering. About every human who died because the Vraxians thought conquest was easy. Fire everything. I want that fortress gone. The Indomitable II unleashed hell. Missiles, railgun rounds, plasma cannons, and quantum torpedoes, all of it hammered into the orbital fortress. The structure that General Kronak had thought invincible came apart like paper in a hurricane. Direct hits, fortress structural integrity failing. They're evacuating. Don't let them. Target the escape pods. Some of his crew hesitated. Firing on escape pods violated the rules of civilized warfare. But Han Jisoo remembered the footage from the Vraxian conquests. The civilians they had slaughtered. The mercy they had never shown. I gave an order, he said coldly. The escape pods died in bright flashes. General Kronak's pod was among them. The fortress exploded a moment later, a small sun blooming in Earth's orbit. From her lunar command center, Dr. Yoon Hana watched the battle unfold across a dozen screens. Everything was proceeding perfectly. The Vraxian fleet was in chaos. Their casualties were already past 50%. And humanity's most devastating weapon was still waiting to be deployed. Activate Sunfire Protocol, she ordered. Around the sun, massive collectors that humanity had secretly built over decades began to move. They had been disguised as scientific instruments, solar observation platforms. In reality, they were weapons capable of harvesting the sun's plasma and directing it like a weapon. The collectors locked onto Vraxian ship positions. Space itself seemed to tear open as beams of solar fire, channeled through quantum tunnels, struck the enemy fleet. Ships didn't just explode, they simply ceased to exist, vaporized by temperatures that matched the sun's core. Sunfire operating at 30% capacity, a technician reported. We're being careful not to destabilize the sun's corona. Good. We need to win this war. Not destroy our own solar system doing it. But even at partial power, Sunfire was devastating. The Vraxian fleet tried to retreat, to jump to hyperspace and escape, but they found the jump points blocked. Gravity well generators, hidden throughout the solar system, prevented any ship from entering hyperspace. The Vraxians were trapped in a system that had become their grave. Commander Shin Yuna's ghost fleet pressed the attack relentlessly. Her ships moved like dancers. Perfect coordination between vessels that had trained together in secret for years. The Vraxians fought back desperately, but they were outmatched in every way: technology, tactics, motivation. Commander. Receiving surrender requests from 17 Vraxian vessels. Shin Yuna considered this. They could show mercy, could accept surrender, and prove humanity was better than the Empire. But she also knew the Vraxians would see mercy as weakness. Tell them we'll accept surrender after their Empress answers for her crimes. Until then, keep firing. The battle raged for 6 more hours. When it finally ended, the Vraxian fleet was destroyed. A few ships escaped, damaged and running for their lives. The rest were wreckage or prisoners. Earth's sky cleared for the first time in 3 weeks. The occupation was over. The Vraxians who survived on the ground were captured by the resistance and locked in the same prisons where they had planned to put humans. Lee Hyunwoo stood in the streets of Seoul, real Seoul, as civilians emerged from the underground shelters. They saw the Vraxian ships burning in orbit, saw the ghost fleet standing guard, saw the enemy defeated and broken. The celebration started spontaneously. People laughing, crying, hugging strangers. Humanity had been knocked down, and humanity had gotten back up swinging. But in her throne room light years away, Empress Velthara watched the recordings from Earth with cold fury. Her fleet destroyed, her soldiers captured, her empire humiliated by a species she had dismissed as primitive. Summon the War Council, she ordered. If the humans want war, we'll give them war. I'll bring every ship, every soldier, every weapon the Empire has. I'll reduce their planet to ash and scatter their bones across space as a warning to others. The transmission ended. Her subordinates hurried to obey, frightened by the fury in their empress's voice. On Earth, celebrating its victory, humanity didn't know that the real war was just beginning. Earth's sky was clear and beautiful. For the first time in a month, no alien ships hung in the atmosphere with weapons ready. Children played in parks. Markets reopened. The underground cities emptied as people returned to the surface, blinking in the sunlight, like they were being born again. But on every military base, in every command center, the celebration was muted. They had won the battle. The war was just beginning. Admiral Park Min-ho stood in the rebuilt orbital command station, looking at sensor data that made his stomach tight. Beyond the solar system, in deep space, the Vraxian Empire was mobilizing. Not a fleet, an armada, more ships than humanity had faced before. More ships than humanity had. Even with the ghost fleet. Numbers? He asked quietly. Conservative estimate. 800 capital ships. 3,000 support vessels. Maybe 100,000 fighters. They're pulling forces from 50 different systems. 800 capital ships. The Ghost Fleet had 300, and they had been pushed hard in the last battle. Many needed repairs. Some were beyond repair. Time until they arrive? 1 week. Maybe 6 days if they push their engines. 1 week to prepare for an enemy that could exterminate humanity if they chose. 1 week to find a solution that didn't end with Earth becoming a dead rock. Get me Dr. Yunhana. And Commander Shin. And Captain Han Jisoo. We need to talk strategy. An hour later, they gathered in the war room. The holographic display showed the approaching Vraxian armada like a swarm of angry hornets. Everyone in the room understood what those numbers meant. We can't win a straight fight, Admiral Park Minho said simply. They have us outnumbered 3-1. And that's assuming all our ships are battle-ready. Which they're not. So we don't fight straight, Captain Han Jisoo said. Commander Shin Yuna nodded. The asteroid field, Saturn's rings, the gas giants. We can set ambushes, use hit-and-run tactics, make them bleed for every inch of space. That buys us time, but it doesn't win the war, Dr. Yunhana said. Eventually, they wear us down. Unless we change the equation. Change it how? Dr. Yunhana brought up a new display. It showed communication routes across the galaxy. Thousands of connections between civilizations. The Vraxian Empire has conquered 47 species. Enslaved billions. Every one of those species hates the Empire. But they serve because they think resistance is impossible. We need to show them it isn't. You want to start a rebellion across the entire Empire? Han Jisoo sounded amazed. Not just a rebellion, a revolution. We have proof of Vraxian war crimes. Footage from their conquests. Evidence of atrocities. If we can broadcast that across the galaxy, if we can show every enslaved species that the Empire can be beaten, they'll rise up. And the Empire will have to choose, fight us, or fight to hold their territory together. Admiral Park Minho considered this. It was insane. It was brilliant. It might be their only chance. How do we broadcast to the entire galaxy? The Vraxians control the communication networks. We don't use their networks. We use ours. Dr. Yunhana smiled. Project Prometheus. We've been developing faster-than-light communication technology. It's untested at this scale, but theoretically, we can transmit to every major system simultaneously. The Vraxians won't be able to block or censor it. Theoretically? Nothing's certain in war, Admiral. But it's our best shot. The Admiral looked at his commanders. Shin Yuna nodded. Han Jisoo nodded. Then, we have 2 objectives. First, survive long enough to make the broadcast. Second, make sure the broadcast matters. We need to show the galaxy that humanity isn't just surviving, we're winning. We need to make a statement the Empire can't ignore. While Earth prepared for the coming storm, Captain Choi Sora took the Retribution on a mission that had seemed impossible until now. A strike team, 5 ships, traveling through hyperspace toward the Vraxian homeworld itself. This is insane, her first officer said for the 10th time. Insane is fighting an armada we can't beat. This is creative problem-solving. Choi Sora checked their stealth systems. They were flying captured Vraxian ships, modified to look authentic. The plan was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. Reach the Vraxian capital. Infiltrate their main communications hub. Hijack it for Dr. Yoon's broadcast. If we get caught, there's no backup. No rescue. We'll be light years from home. Then we won't get caught. Choi Sora said it with more confidence than she felt. But confidence was a weapon too. And she would use every weapon she had. The journey took 3 days. 3 days of flying through enemy territory, past Vraxian patrol fleets, past systems where enslaved species worked in massive factories, 3 days of seeing the Empire's true face. When they finally reached the Vraxian homeworld, it took Choi Sora's breath away. The planet was beautiful. Purple oceans, silver cities, orbital platforms that looked like art. But that beauty was built on the backs of conquered peoples. Built with stolen resources. Built with blood. Receiving approach clearance, her communications officer said. They think we're the escort carrier Dreadscale returning from Earth. Redscale. 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 Good, take us in. They descended through the orbital traffic, surrounded by hundreds of Vraxian vessels. One wrong move, one suspicious scan, and they would die. But the Vraxians were arrogant. They didn't expect enemies in their own capital system. Didn't imagine that humans would be bold enough to come here. Arrogance was a weakness. And humans were very good at exploiting weakness. They docked at the communications hub without incident. Choi Sora led her team through the corridors, wearing captured Vraxian armor that concealed their human forms. Around them, Vraxian technicians worked at their stations, completely unaware. Target is 3 levels down, her tactical officer whispered through the comm. Heavy security. Then, we use the gift Engineer Bay sent us. The gift was a small device that generated a localized electromagnetic pulse. Not strong enough to damage systems permanently, but strong enough to disable shields and stun organics. They placed it near a power junction and activated it. The lights went out. Emergency systems kicked in. And in the confusion, Choi Sora's team struck. They moved like shadows, taking down guards with silent efficiency. Within 5 minutes, they controlled the communications hub. Link established, her tech specialist announced. We have access to the entire Vraxian broadcast network, and their censorship systems are offline. Then it's time to make a call. Choi Sora activated her long-range transmitter. Dr. Yoon, we're in position. Send the broadcast whenever you're ready. Back on Earth, Dr. Yoon Hana stood in front of a camera. Behind her, screens showed the approaching Vraxian armada. She had spent 3 days writing this speech, choosing every word carefully. This moment would define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations. Citizens of the galaxy, she began. You know me as Dr. Yoon Hana of Earth. You know my species as humanity. And you know us as the latest victims of the Vraxian Empire. But that story, the story you've been told, is a lie. The broadcast went out across 1,000 systems simultaneously. In Vraxian space, on enslaved worlds, in neutral territories, in the Galactic Council chambers everywhere, people watched. The Empire came to Earth thinking we were weak. They destroyed our cities, killed our people, declared us conquered. But they were wrong. Everything they destroyed was bait. Everything they killed was sacrifice. Because humanity learned long ago that the best way to defeat a strong enemy is to let them think they've already won. The screen showed footage from the battle. The ghost fleet appearing. The Vraxian ships dying. The occupation crumbling. We fought back. We won. And now the Empire comes with an armada to finish what they started. But here's what they don't understand. We're not the victims in this story. They are. The footage changed. Now it showed evidence of Vraxian atrocities across 47 worlds. Civilians slaughtered, cities burned, species enslaved, crime after crime after crime, documented and undeniable. The Empire has ruled through fear for centuries. They told you resistance was impossible. They told you submission was survival. They lied. We are proof they lied. And we stand ready to help anyone else who wants to be free. Dr. Yoon Hana leaned forward, staring into the camera like she could see through it to every being watching across the stars. People of the galaxy, your chains are an illusion. Your fear is a weapon they use against you. But fear can be broken. Chains can be shattered. And empires can fall. The broadcast ended. For a moment, the galaxy was silent. Then the first rebellion sparked. On a mining world in Vraxian territory, slave workers seized their overseers' weapons. On a factory planet, production lines stopped. On a tribute world, the local government refused to send ships to join the Armada. Within hours, 20 systems were in open revolt. Within a day, 50. The Vraxian Empire, which had seemed invincible, began to crack. Empress Velthara watched her empire burn and knew she had a choice. She could continue toward Earth and crush the humans, but lose half her territory in rebellions. Or she could turn back and restore order, but let humanity escape. Either choice meant the end of easy conquests. The end of the Empire's golden age. And it was all because of one species that refused to stay defeated. "Continue to Earth," she commanded. "We destroy the humans completely. Make an example so terrible that no one will ever resist again." But in her hearts, she knew the truth. The Empire had already lost. They just didn't know it yet. Captain Choi Sora and her team fought their way out of the communications hub, back to their ships, and into space. As they jumped to hyperspace, she looked back at the Vraxian homeworld. It looked peaceful, but she could see the cracks forming in that peace. "Mission accomplished," she reported. "Now we just have to survive the return trip." They would. Humanity had come too far to fail now. The Vraxian Armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, like a swarm of locusts. 800 capital ships, 3,000 support vessels, fighters beyond counting. They spread across space in a formation designed to inspire terror and despair. On Earth, people watched the sensors and felt their hearts sink. They had won the first battle. But this was overwhelming. Admiral Park Min-ho stood on the bridge of the orbital command station, watching the enemy fleet organize itself. He had fought in wars before, had seen impossible odds. But this was different. This was existential. Humanity either won today, or humanity ended today. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his communications officer said. "Commander Shin Yuna has the Ghost Fleet in position. Captain Han Jisoo has the defense fleet at the inner perimeter. Ground forces are ready. Sunfire is charged. We're as prepared as we'll ever be. Then let's show them what humans are made of." Admiral Park Min-ho opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, all stations, all personnel. This is Admiral Park Min-ho. The enemy comes with overwhelming force. They think numbers will win this battle. They're wrong. We're not fighting for conquest. We're not fighting for glory. We're fighting for our right to exist. We're fighting for our children's future. We're fighting because someone decided Earth was theirs to take, and we need to explain very clearly that Earth belongs to humanity. All ships engage." The Ghost Fleet struck first. Commander Shin Yuna had positioned her vessels in the asteroid belt, using the rocks for cover. As the Vraxian fleet advanced, her ships erupted from hiding, with weapons blazing. Quantum torpedoes phased through shields. Railgun rounds punched through armor. Plasma cannons superheated hulls until they burst. The Vraxians had expected resistance, but not this level of technology, not this level of coordination. "Enemy fleet breaking formation," Shin Yuna's tactical officer reported. "They're trying to surround us. Let them. Spring the trap." Throughout the asteroid belt, mines that had been placed weeks ago activated. But these weren't normal mines. They were gravity bombs, devices that created temporary singularities. When they detonated, nearby Vraxian ships were crushed like paper cups in a fist. Enemy casualties. 200 ships destroyed or disabled in the first 10 minutes. 200 ships. A devastating blow. But the Armada kept coming. That was the problem. With overwhelming force, even with heavy losses, there were still so many left. Captain Han Jisoo commanded the defense fleet near Earth's orbit. His job was to stop anything that got through the outer defenses. He watched the battle unfold on his tactical display, calculating angles and timing. "Vraxian breakthrough on Vector 7, his tactical officer warned. 50 ships. Heading for Earth. All ships, intercept course. Don't let them reach firing range of the planet." The defense fleet surged forward to meet the threat. They were outnumbered 3-1, but they had the advantage of fighting for their home. Every human pilot knew what was at stake. Every gunner, every engineer, every officer gave everything they had. The indomitable two led the charge. Han Jisu's ship had been upgraded even further after the last battle, its weapons capable of crippling a capital ship in a single salvo. He proved it by destroying the lead Vraxian cruiser with a perfectly placed shot to its reactor. Target their command ships, disrupt their formation. The battle became chaos. Ships dodged and weaved. Weapons fire lit up space like a storm. Humans died. Vraxians died. And still the battle raged on. On Earth, Li Hyunwoo watched the orbital battle and prayed. His resistance had fought well against the occupation, but against a full-scale fleet assault? They were helpless. All they could do was wait and hope that the fleet held. If any Vraxians make it to the surface, we'll be ready, he told his people. But I believe in our fleet. I believe in our people. We've come too far to lose now. Dr. Yoon Hana monitored the battle from her lunar command center. The Sunfire protocol was ready, but she held back. The weapon was devastating, but limited. She could fire maybe a dozen times before the solar collectors overheated. She needed to wait for the perfect moment. Dr. Yoon, Captain Choi Sora is requesting emergency backup. She's pinned down by 3 Vraxian battleships. That was the moment. Yoon Hana targeted the coordinates and activated Sunfire. 3 beams of solar plasma, channeled through quantum space, struck the battleships simultaneously. They didn't explode, they simply vaporized, along with 1,000 meters of space around them. Sunfire firing again in 90 seconds. Give me more targets. Across the solar system, humanity fought with everything it had. But the Vraxian armada kept pushing forward. They were taking massive casualties, but they were making progress. Slowly, meter by meter, they advanced toward Earth. Then the unexpected happened. Ships began appearing at the edge of the solar system. Not Vraxian ships. These were different designs, different configurations. Ambassador Talvek's Federation, the Kelran battle fleet. And behind them, ships from a dozen other species. Admiral Park Minho stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. Are those friendly forces, sir? Ambassador Talvek is hailing us. The ambassador's face appeared on screen. The alien looked grim but determined. Admiral Park, the Kelran Federation formally recognizes Earth's sovereignty and offers military assistance against Vraxian aggression. We're not the only ones. Dr. Yoon's broadcast changed a lot of minds in the Galactic Council. Ambassador, you have no idea how good it is to see you. Save the gratitude for after we win. Kelran fleet. Attack formation. 200 more ships joined the battle. They weren't as advanced as the Ghost fleet, but they were fresh, undamaged, and fighting mad. The tide of battle shifted. Empress Velthara watched from her flagship as her certain victory turned into a nightmare. The humans should have been crushed. Instead, they were winning, and now other species were joining them. The entire galactic order was collapsing because of one stubborn planet. All ships, focus fire on Earth itself, she commanded. If we can't conquer it, we'll destroy it. Leave nothing but rubble. Her fleet turned toward Earth, weapons charging for a final devastating bombardment. But they had forgotten about Captain Choi Sora, the Retribution. Fresh from its mission to the Vraxian homeworld, appeared directly behind the Empress's flagship. Choi Sora had been waiting for this moment, planning this attack since the battle began. All weapons, target the flagship's reactor. Fire. The Retribution's entire arsenal unleashed at point-blank range. Quantum torpedoes, plasma cannons, railgun rounds, everything focused on one target. The Empress's shields failed, her armor cracked, and her reactor went critical. This is for Earth, Choi Sora whispered. The flagship exploded in a fireball visible from the planet's surface. Empress Velthara died with her command crew. Her dreams of conquest reduced to scattered atoms. Without their empress, without their flagship, the Vraxian fleet lost cohesion. Some ships tried to continue fighting. Some tried to retreat. Most just stopped. Their crews stunned by the sudden reversal. All Vraxian vessels. This is Admiral Park Minho. He broadcast on all frequencies. Your empress is dead. Your fleet is defeated. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly under the laws of war. Continue fighting, and you will share her fate. Choose. Slowly, one by one, the Vraxian ships powered down their weapons. They had come expecting an easy victory. Instead, they found defeat, death, and destruction. The battle was over. Commander Shin Yuna watched the last enemy ship surrender and felt tears on her face. They had won. Against impossible odds, against an empire that thought itself invincible, humanity had won. All ships, stand down from combat alert. Begin rescue operations. Enemy or ally. If there are survivors, we save them. Because that was what separated humanity from the empire. Humanity knew that victory didn't mean cruelty. It meant having the strength to show mercy. The battle for Earth was over. But the aftermath was just beginning. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. The Vraxian Empire, without its empress, and with rebellions burning across 50 systems, was collapsing. The old order was dying. Ambassador Talvek proposed a new organization. The Free Worlds Alliance. A coalition of sovereign species, equal and independent, dedicated to mutual defense and peaceful cooperation. Earth would be a founding member. So would the Kelran Federation and a dozen others. The age of empires is over, Talvek declared. The age of free peoples has begun. 1 year later, Earth looked different. The cities had been rebuilt. Better than before. Orbital stations surrounded the planet. Both defensive and civilian. Ships came and went from 100 different worlds. Trading, learning, sharing. In orbit, a monument was unveiled. A sculpture of a phoenix rising from flames, with an inscription in 100 languages. They thought we were embers. We were the fire. Admiral Park Minho, now retired, attended the ceremony representing Earth at the Galactic Council. He looked older, but satisfied. The war had cost much, but it had won something precious, freedom, and proof that freedom was worth fighting for. Captain Han Jisoo commanded the new Terran fleet, protecting Earth and its allies. Commander Shin Yuna led intelligence, watching for new threats. Dr. Yoon Hana continued her research, now sharing technology with other species. Lee Hyun-woo helped rebuild Earth's cities and trained new defenders. Captain Choi Sora explored beyond known space, mapping new routes and meeting new civilizations. Each of them carried scars from the war. Each remembered friends who didn't come home. But they also remembered what they had proven, that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or tactics. It was the refusal to give up. The determination to stand and fight, even against impossible odds. In the Galactic Council chambers, Admiral Park Minho gave a speech to the assembled delegates. Representatives from 200 species watched and listened. The Vraxian Empire mocked humanity's defeat, he said. They celebrated too early. They didn't understand the most important thing about humanity. We are at our most dangerous when we have nothing left to lose. And we are at our most brilliant when we have everything to fight for. We were knocked down. We got back up. And we'll do it again. As many times as necessary. Because that's what humans do. We survive. We adapt. We overcome. And we never, ever surrender. The applause was deafening. Not just from human delegates, but from species across the galaxy who had found hope in Earth's example, who had learned that empires could fall, that freedom could win, that a single planet, determined and united, could change everything. Earth's sky was full of ships from 100 worlds. The war was over. The peace was just beginning. And humanity, the species that had played dead and then struck like lightning, stood as proof that the smallest ember, given air and time, could become an inferno. The Empire had mocked humanity's defeat. Then the sky split open with Terran fire, and the galaxy would never forget.